Ooh, what a horrible bear bar. Okay. POC shifting back up. See if they can reconfirm. Very nice bear continuation, looking for a reason for sellers to slam this back to the downside, back underneath those most recent lows, and that is a fantastic reason for them to do it. So far, if they do want to have a corrective phase back up, we've got the POC at 13.25. And then, you know, again, if it wants to break further up than that, we know the next spot is all the way up here at 37s or so. Nice retest of the POC for sellers to try to press the market back down again. From here, if it's going to go further up, we're probably going to attempt to test the previous Oh man, if any bulls tried getting in on that, they just got dunked on. Hang on a second. This just shifted real fast. That jumped up real quick, slammed all the way back down, then slammed all the way back up. Look at the herky-jerky stuff going on here. Got to be careful. Holy crap. All right, bit more continuation back up. Next zone isn't until the 37s. So we either have a continuation back down for a scalper's target, which at the moment would be about a little ahead of 800s. Sellers starting to pop above the previous bear bar on the S&P 5150. 5250 would be the offset, which I think makes a little more sense here. Oh, geez. Sellers hit 5150. Looking for scalpers targets on the S&P, and at the same time watching the NASDAQ while they're jumping up here. This is a major zone of interest. I love this area. Beautiful spot. Retesting that previous major POC. We're finally getting a pullback of substance. It's an ABCD corrective phase back up into a previous confirmed POC. Uh, 54, 50, 56, 50 would be the next one. As far as from that average perspective goes, if it were to just shoot straight down right now, that'd be in like the 817s, 815s or so. Tested the entry at 54.50, but didn't get a fill. Targets at 52.50 on the S&P, still waiting. Finally swept in on that final portion there. Still looking for a scalp entry target, at least on the S&P, but it's a bit awkward now back at 53.50. We're still underneath the previous low of day, which is back up at 56.50. Now, as far as the continuation back to the upside, let's keep track of where we're at. We've got a 1618 move to the upside now. I don't really want to add more here, though, because the next area would be at the 5-minute POC and up in the 75s. I would still rather wait for a little bit and see. If they just rotate straight down, then it's going to be down in the 14s now. Tested the next entry, but no fill. They're going to make me work for it today, huh? Looking at the way that this is moving, we are starting to creep up into that other previous POC, but we've got to be cognizant of what's going on in the short term here. This is a nice breakaway move and possibly and very likely a wave 3, at least for now, until we get a little bit more info. So as it stands, this could have one more leg to the upside and still make pretty good sense. Again, one of the biggest mistakes that the majority of traders make when they're building into positions, whether it's the micro or the mini or whatever, is building in too quickly and creating an unsustainable position. Now, the nice thing is if we go over, since I'm still building into the mini, and that might make me deal with this for a little while, we could load up the micro and still scalp off of that. That'd be interesting. What is now the MNQ? Oh crap. No, I did the instrument link. No. Go back to NASDAQ. Big jump to the upside. I will add a little bit more risk up here. I like this zone to increase, although my average obviously needs quite a bit of work. 950, 10 o'clock around the corner. As far as the MNQ is concerned, a 500 tick might work. Might have to do it this way, though. Might get loud for a second. Grandma is coming over to visit the kids this morning. All right, so we've got the micro NASDAQ on the left side there, just while I'm building into the mini. That'll give us a little bit of flexibility as far as that's concerned. There it is. All right. We've got a nice little shallow pullback, although still seeing resistance off of the top. Nice continuation back to the downside. Yeah, I know, right? Got to get that granny time in. Downside objectives for scalpers going to be down in the 22s. And if we carry this all the way up to the highs, we've got that POC back at 13.25. I obviously wasn't alone. So we'll see what they want to do there. Where is my other micro? There we go. From the micro perspective, as far as this continuation phase goes, again, realistically, the way that we're setting up is that we are in the third wave of a micro cycle that's looking for more continuation up. Oh, first target got hit on the S&P, but I didn't get a fill on the secondary one. It tapped it and didn't fill it. All right, can they take it out a little? There we go. What a pain, S&P. Out on the S&P for, I guess, the better part of a scalp after commissions, mostly break even though. Kind of worthless from that perspective. Bulls getting a continuation back to the upside. As far as upside continuation, usually the first objective is going to be a 618. Which would put targets at like 14,892. Got a little bit more sideways action. There's not really much going on in terms of the highs being broken or the lows being broken. They're just sort of hanging out here. Back down to these range lows. I'll reduce a bit and accept the initial portion of the loss just to make position averaging a bit easier on the NASDAQ. That creates a situation where a 2-to-1 now would fit into the lows. Although it doesn't fit to the 13.25, which is a little bit of a bummer. Now it does. There we go. All right. 2-to-1 objective would be down in the 815.50s. One, two, three, and then we'll see if they can continue beyond that. All right. There we go. Now, as far as the micro NASDAQ is concerned, it still looks like the shorts are going to have a bit of a tough time. Nice bullish bar back to the upside again. On the micro, this is going to move a little bit quicker. So a 500 tick might not be as optimal during this period in time. You can see how many candles we're plotting. How about a 750? I think 1,000 ticks going to be a little bit too slow. 750 looks closer. Yeah, okay. Starting to see a little bit more descent to the downside. Bulls attempting to get a very nice bounce back to the upside. The 512 tick, there you go. Very strong reversal back to the upside after an ABCD corrective phase back down. On the micro side, bulls will be looking for the pierce underneath the previous bull bar. Nice spot to re-up a little bit more, and that also modifies my position. No. There we go. All right, nice little pullback here, continuation phasing bulls, trying to get the majority of the next leg up. But remember where we are. If this is going to be the fifth leg, then realistically, this could be more towards the end of this continuation to the upside. But buyers are still attempting to get that drive up. Settlement is at 14,897. Geez, there's like no pullbacks. It's just straight up and straight down and nothing in between, huh? From here. Going to have to do more work on the average again, although the target is still inside the lows. It's below the POC again, which is a bit of a bummer. 893s are going to be the next major zone, which we are already very close to. Holy crap. All right, might have some positioning to do here. Nice pop into the 893s. There we go. I still have some work to do on my average. I'm not satisfied where it is, unless this thing just collapses through the lows. I'm not quite satisfied where it is, and in that it's kind of, I just want it to be a bit further up. So may start exiting if we push back into the 54s again. Bulls are trying to get more continuation up. We have completed that 0.61 move to the upside. The next objective, if it is going to go further up, would be a 1-to-1 move, which is right there, up at 14,912. Don't mind the extra noise, like I said. Grandma's here. As far as, given the way that this is moving, just to ensure that we're on both sides of things, the first objective, if I'm looking to lighten up just a bit, is going to be down in the 858, 78s. 5. There, let's go for something like that. That would put the average in a significantly more favorable position. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then 2. Yeah, right about there. That was a pretty good eyeball right there. The POC did shift up a little bit, so I'll modify just to the 2 to 1, and then we'll just keep going from there. Right. More continuation back to the upside. Not really any pullback as of yet. If we're looking at the cycling off of the lows, we've got that. Ooh, that was too far down. Let's try that again. We've got the cycle off of a to the tick L4, at least on the micro NASDAQ. Continuation back up into an L2. That's a little bit, deeper than you would expect. Usually with an L4, in a strong rotation, you'll get an L1. Now, coincidentally, uncoincidentally, we do have an L1 that hit right there after it broke the highs. The hindsight 2020, right? More continuation back to the upside had the L2 on that deeper move, although the buyers on the 1 did try to show up, and then a larger breakout to the upside. So if the bulls are going to keep this up, likely we're going to see those L1s attempting to hold. And if they're unable to hold, the next spot would be the 2s. Now, if the 2s don't hold, historically what we've been seeing is 4s. So it's a bit awkward in here. Really, buyers want to hold the 1s and not give it a whole lot of space beyond that. I think the way you calculate and average in and out in the trade like this one would be great for a future webinar. I was actually just thinking the same thing. This is I was looking at the recording as far as the timestamp goes, going right into 10 o'clock, because this would be a really good one to look at cutting out as like an excerpt and then talking over what I'm doing, rather than listening to me talk through right now. It's you know how it is when a trade's going on at the time. It's hard to say everything. I'm definitely with you. I think that'd be a really cool video. We are going into 10 o'clock, but given the way that things are going and given the concept of wanting to make this into a video that I can then use as a training material, I don't really want to go to the extended session right now because that's going to cut into the recording. So I'm just going to let this go and we'll just keep going with it for today and just skip the extended session for this time around, just for the sake of having a good recording. Got a nice L1 continuation back up. We've got a double top at the highs. A 2-legged corrective phase back down would be a 3-press wedge low, hovering just inside the L1s if it wants to actually get something structural happening. So give me 1 second here. I grab a drink and then we'll roll into 10 o'clock. Okay. Let's keep it on. S&P continuing back to the upside with more continuation back up. See what they're able to get done here. On the micro NASDAQ, down in the L1 on a retest of a 3-press wedge low would be the zone of interest where buyers will likely try to come in on a retest bounce. Nice little spot for buyers to try to kick it back up from here. The upside objective with this in mind would be at least up to around 81. $81 would be the 0.5-to-1 objective. There it is. Nice little 0.5-to-1 target fill on the micro, although I know it's the micro and it's not really worth much. Good example of how you can still utilize it. Nice continuation dive to the bottom of L1 now, breaking through the lows of the wedge. Churning down pretty aggressively and back to the 5-minute POC on the other end of things. If we're looking at the first 15 POC, we can see that that was very aggressively bottom weighted, right? So the fact that we're rotating back up, assuming that those traders are correct, successful, winning side traders, then realistically, it would make a lot of sense to, see some trading happening at around the 869 quarters, some defense, some interest. I'm going to reduce into that dive down there. There's too much support happening off of this area for me to not have to reduce at least a little bit. And when I say a little bit, I mean the majority of it. I do not like the price actions happening down here. I apologize for being probably not helpful in that dip for everyone. But this dive down to retest that POC scares the crap out of me. I need to see this follow through with a bit more. And the fact that we're hovering right around that break even or just a little bit, that's... I've got to stay cognizant of where we are. I would rather position myself in a better location. This does mean that obviously the average is way the heck up there. So if we do get that drive down, the downside objective would be in the 29s. So we've got a lot of room to go if it wants to fall. So we'll see if this bad boy can keep on going, but if we can get a bit more proof for the POC to start changing again, you know, maybe a little bit further up here or something, then I would feel a bit better, but what is, oh, give me 1 second, sorry. So as far as the continuation to the downside goes, you know, expecting an ABCD corrective phase and this to be the exact top doesn't necessarily have to be the case. But looking at it from where we are in the bigger picture, if the market is going to try to hold this as a zone of interest, a lot of times we do get at least a halfway decent pushback down, which, you know, makes sense as to why we're taking profit here. If it starts losing its grip, though, there's some clues that we might not really want to be holding short for too much longer. What is the one leg to etc. indicator use called? I'm trying to add it to my chart, but I didn't know what the indicator was called. Are you talking about the when I'm doing this, all of those? That's an indicator that I got off of the NinjaTrader forums, I believe, or it might have been on futures.io, one of the two. Because I don't know, I'm not going to post it because I don't know who actually owns the rights to it. But it's on either futures.io or it's on Ninja's forum, one of the two. Good continuation back to the downside. Sellers are looking for more if they're able to get it going. We kind of know the scenario here. But the bigger picture, you know, as far as where the average is, we've got a higher high and then a lower high and a nice dive down, keeping this all into perspective with all these ABCDs all over the place. The fact that this is a 1.25 down and immediate bounce back up, you know, a little bit concerning. If we look at the last time we had a slide down, it was either an immediate reversal straight back up where it doubled, tripled itself up, or after a big slide, it just went sideways and kind of hovered around, typically hovering in the lower portions of the area that it created. Right now, it seems more like it's trying to create that V bottom. So we're on some touchy ground. The L4, the L2, still hasn't hit the L2. Market just kind of messing around, not really doing a whole lot of anything. S&P chopping. We have a small little, I don't want to call it, I guess it would be a spinning top. Isn't it identical on top and bottom? Spinning top on the highs. The one concern would be a bear bar that looks like the bull bar on the other side. That would be basically just a perfect twin reversal. Speaking of indicators, when you have time, how do we get the one that you measure with the L1, L2? Those are the those are the ratios. Those are the ratios that we use in the Day Trading Academy. Those are all outlined in Chapter 8. Unit 2, Chapter 8. Let me specify. A little bit more continuation back to the upside. We haven't seen a retest of the POC. That could just be a continuation for the bulls. But if we look at this from a realistic standpoint, we've got the cycling already kind of done. You know, we've got the middle wave, we've got the final leg, we've got everything done with. You would expect to see some ABCD corrective phasing and for this to take a little while. And, you know, if it does make it back up to the highs, that just adds to the resistance. So I like this little return back up to the highs here to increase in terms of size again, to ensure that I'm in a logical point. But I've got to remember where we are in this bigger picture, because, you know, this is in the middle. And if it does want to jerk back to the upside, 15,000 would be the next spot, you know? Ooh, POC just shifted to the upside. I will increase risk on that. Not much, but I will increase risk on that. I do like that. As far as the continuation to the downside goes, actual risk, a 2-to-1 is going to be like nothing. That's back down to here. But I suppose just given the fact that it's there and we've got the 5-minute POC, it would be logical to at least take something off at a 2-to-1. Nice continuation drive back to the downside. All right. Nice drive lower for scalpers. Objective makes a lot of sense down in the 1.5, 2-to-1 area. Good enough. Generally speaking, though, I want to try to maintain the short position, given the overall movement that we've got going on here. The potential of this, and the reason why I'm maintaining my short position, is because of the fact that this area has created itself to be an incredibly large zone of support resistance. But if the resistance fails, typically it spikes through aggressively in the other way. So I'm watching this zone pretty intently, seeing how they want to form. If we look at an ABCD move from top down, a 1-to-1 measure would put it just down at the lows, 850, 850. Retesting the 5-minute POC. The S&P, like everything just started dying and slowing down and not doing much of anything. Either way, still holding on to it. I like this for a very nice potential short down to at least the 47s. But I mean, this has got some pretty nice potential waiting in it. And if we look back historically on the typical drives underneath this low, if it is going to continue down, is 0.59, 0.34. What's the lowest? 0.28. So as far as 0.28 goes, that's the weakest continuation that they've had historically. That would put objectives at 40, 44s, 43s. Which is right down there. So, I mean, it's perfect. See if they can get more continuation of what they want to do. POC shifting to the downside, although we've got a lot of these levels that are trading a lot of volume. We know that the POC is shifting up in an otherwise relatively large downtrend. It would make more sense that the market is building into shorts at this point in time. And since we haven't seen a viable attempt from shorts, I think it's reasonable to expect that we do sooner than later. And this might be their attempt. This slow, sideways, really crappy looking garbage that's going on here. POC churning back up again, further demonstrating what we're talking about, right? There's a lot of high volume nodes up here. It's not hard for it to shift around. A lot of volume starting to creep up on this 878. Geez. This bull bar might spark some bullishness above the highs of that, which would likely have continuation towards maybe an inside high above the 890s. They're still building the POC. I still think the shorts are building into their position for a drive back down towards, that value pullback area, but we haven't quite had it yet. And the double value, where's the money? That's where the money's at. That's down in the 730s. Very interesting to see it come close to break even and start rotating back down, closing back underneath the POC, further suggesting that there is some reason to believe that shorts have something going here. I'll increase the risk a little bit. More popping back up. From the scalper's perspective, the bulls may have something going on here, but again, I'm not necessarily convinced that this phasing is done. It is above the near-term POC, so if bulls are going to take it, that would be the spot that they're going to try to buy off of in the 878s. Whoo, nice drop back to the downside, back underneath 878, chopping back down. Any bulls who tried buying into that just got ripped in half. Huge bearishness back to the downside again. Very nice drop. Beautiful continuation back down. A lot of bulls are stuck now. A lot of bulls are stuck on the wrong side of this. Big problems here. Almost need a magnifying glass to see the S bar. Yeah, seriously, teeny tiny. Back down to the lows. Beautiful first objective. Drive on through. Beautiful secondary objective. Continue back on down. See if we can get down a little bit further into those 50s. Hasn't quite made it yet. Now, because I did have to average down into that, which kind of sucks for my average, I've got to look for potentially wider targets now. So I still have to make sure that these fit, and that one doesn't. So I've got to approach this from a scalper, which means that I'm already beyond my target, which means I have a reason to exit down here. Very nice. Whoa, beautiful drive back to the downside. Fantastic. Now, as far as the continuation back down, I guess we don't need the micro anymore. Let me get rid of that one. Looking at this area as a major kind of zone of concern, because this is that middle point. If they can't hold here, then we're likely going to get that dive down into the major point. But remember what we were talking about from the average. We were looking at about 0.28 or so. We're right there. This is that objective. This is the value pullback based on what we've seen historically that the market would expect to give you. It doesn't have to go further. It can, but just keep that in mind. I'm curious, what's the impulse POC? Back a little ways still, yeah.